Hello. For a while now I've been thinking about making videos at the end of each day of counselling or coaching where I reflect on some of the things I've learned that day, because usually after a day of sessions I've got some big themes sort of running through my mind from the conversations I've had with people. So I'll de-identify stuff, and I'll do this as a bit of an experiment to see if I want to keep it up. May make 3 videos, may end up making a lot. We'll see how we go. So yeah, just thinking about today. I'm working from home. I'm seeing people over Skype, doing counselling sessions, doing a couple of strictly coaching sessions. And one theme that's sort of relevant to today, I guess, is thinking about a deficit mindset. Now, this is actually one of the biggest, most common issues with people. It's this thing we have where we sort of take the negative about ourselves, we make that into the picture of who we are. And the problem with that is, one, that you make that in the picture of yourself, well, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So just say I'm in my late 30s and I haven't got a career together. I've been doing odd jobs, this is a common problem, jumping across things, and so I don't have a profession. And so I feel like I'm kind of stuck. And, you know, there's a double problem there, I guess, which is on the one hand that I'm lacking a profession, I'm lacking this coherent set of skills, and number 2, I'm in my late 30s. So I'm not 20, I'm not a starter, so it's kind of like not okay to be like this at that age. Alright, a couple of problems there with that kind of mentality, which I'm calling a deficit mentality, because it's looking at the problems and it's framing me to myself in terms of those problems. The first one is it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You see it that way, well, you're not going to get very motivated, and you're also not going to see any way forward. All you can see are shut doors, all you can see are problems. This is not some sort of, you know, build yourself up, woo-woo, sort of believe in yourself. This is just straightforward, basic 101 psychology. You're not going to get anywhere if you've got that perception of yourself. If you see something as just full of flaws, you're not going to move forward with it. Another aspect of that, and it's a little bit more subtle but profoundly important, is also that we teach people how to see ourselves. So if I'm trying to get somewhere and I'm carrying that perspective on myself, well, I'm walking into a room with much more anxiety, much more negativity. I'm kind of showing myself as that kind of person that they're going to pick up on the secret shame inside me of my lack of skills or my age. And this is the further point I'm about to make, is also that I'm not showing, it's about what I'm showing negatively about myself and also what I'm not showing positively about myself. So the fundamental thing here is to turn this around into a positive mindset. And again, this is not some sort of bullshit, just sort of talk yourself up. Both perspectives have a kind of arbitrariness to them. This deficit mentality is it's one way of looking at it. It has, I'll give the cynic their a bit of credence here. Okay, there's a certain realism maybe in that deficit mentality, but there's equally as much truth and reality in a more positive description which I'm about to give. It's no less arbitrary. And so this other perspective is, say, if we're talking about this example, okay, I've just spent 20 years not having a clear profession, but I've done a lot of jobs. Usually jobs, in the end, that are related to one another. There's a whole skill set that I've built up. So what I'd say to you is sit down and you map those things out. You effectively map out or create what your profession is, because you've got one. You've been putting food on the table, I assume. You've been working and making things work. Okay, you've got a whole bunch of skills and they have some sort of relationship to one another. They have some sort of coherence. It's 2019. You can make a career out of this if you can understand all your strengths, pull them together, and then know how to present them. And this is the other thing. Present them, present yourself. So the other aspect here is, in doing this, start to get a more positive perspective on yourself. So sure, I'm in my late 30s, say, I'm not 20, and before I was looking at that as a deficit because I'm thinking employers don't want that in a person. Well, how do you know what an employer is looking for? How do you know what they're looking at when they look at you? Look at it this way, maybe they're sick of 20-year-olds flaking on you. When they see this 40-year-old, they see somebody who's, you know, in their own assumptions, reliable, dependable, and maybe you are, so you can really put that across. use your age as a strength, and use it as a strength in terms of how you understand it and how you present it, because it is a bunch of strengths. And on the other hand, recognize that people make all sorts of assumptions, and they don't just make negative assumptions. They make positive assumptions constantly as well. So in this case, as I'm saying, they might make this constant, this set of positive assumptions, for example, that you're more reliable. So, yeah, that's one big thing I was reflecting on after some conversations. We just sort of give into these deficit perceptions of ourselves without really kind of critically questioning them, and it's no less true or reasonable or critically minded. It's no more arbitrary to take a positive perspective. You take a true positive perspective on yourself, you map that out, you handwrite it out onto a bit of paper, free form, free flowing, and then you eventually sort of whittle it down into something really clear that you have on a bit of paper that maybe you read every day, say, and you really start to let that sink in and shift the sense of who you are. Okay, we'll see how these go in future. It's certainly nice doing it out here in the bush.